Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all well, and if you are new, thanks for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today I am going to share some of my most anticipated books that are being published before the end of 2022. I have books by authors that I've read and that I still want to read more from. And I have books by authors who are on my TBR and on my shelves, and I want to still read them. And I have one new to me author and one debut novel. So let's get to this list. I'm going to start with the books by authors that I have read before. And I'm starting with two books that are being published on September the 13th. So the first one is Lessons by Ian McEwan. I've only read Atonement by Ian McEwan, but I do want to read more by him, and this one sounds interesting to me. This follows the life of Roland Bain, who is isolated at the age of 11, and he learns to play the piano, and then it goes to when his wife leaves him and he has to take care of his son. I was intrigued by the fact that the backdrop of Roland's life is Chernobyl, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the COVID-19 pandemic. So it spans quite a bit of time. And I like that this story combines music and art with family, love, and global events. So I'm interested in how McEwan will bring all of this together. The second book, also being published on September the 13th, is a book that I mentioned in my Giller Prize hopefuls, and that is A Minor Chorus by Billy Ray Belcourt. And this is Belcourt's debut fiction. I've read his memoir, A History of My Brief Body, and I just loved his use of language. He's a poet and has a couple of poetry collections out that I also want to get my hands on at some point. The main character in this novel is an unnamed writer who returns to northern Alberta with a desire to write an autobiography of his hometown. And then through his experiences and conversations, he learns the importance of storytelling. Next are books that are being published on September 27th. I have 3 books, and the first is from Annie Proulx. Now, I've read 3 books by Annie Proulx, and 2 that I really enjoyed, The Shipping News and Brokeback Mountain, and one that I didn't like, Bird Cloud, which was a nonfiction book and is actually the reason that I haven't read another book by Annie Proulx since. The next book from Annie Proulx is also nonfiction, called Fen, Bog, and Swamp. So you might wonder, why would I have this on the list if I didn't like her other nonfiction? So here's the thing. The best part of Bird Cloud was the last part, the last chapter, which was all nature writing. And I absolutely loved it. And I thought if Bird Cloud had been all about that, then it would have been a fantastic book. Fen, Bog, and Swamp is all about wetlands and their importance on the environment. So I'm willing to give this a try, knowing that I may get some of that great nature writing again. The next book is one of 2 of my most anticipated books, of the most anticipated books, and that is The Winners by Frederick Backman. This has been out for a while, but we've been waiting for the English translation, and it will finally be here at the end of September. So just a little bit over a month to go. Now, I would be excited about any book coming out by Backman, but this is the final book in the Beartown trilogy, and I love these books. Normally when I talk about Backman, I talk about how I love his humor and how he uses humor in his stories. With the Beartown series, I love how he has managed to include so many characters, so many hot topics, so many emotions, without it all being too overwhelming or chaotic. I feel like I know the people in Beartown, and I feel like I've been through some pretty traumatic things with them, and I can't wait to be with them again. So this novel takes place 2 years after everything that has gone down for the small town and the hockey team. And I won't say too much because I think you probably need to read the first 2 books to at least be emotionally invested. But I can't wait to see how Backman brings this story all together. Now we are going into October. Starting on the 4th is Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. And I've read Little Fires Everywhere and really enjoyed it. I haven't read anything else from her, at least not yet, so this is on my radar, and I think that it sounds really good. The main character is 12-year-old Bird Gardner, and I'm interested in the world Bird is living in with his father, since they are governed by laws that preserve the American culture after years of violence and economic instability. Bird's mother, who is a poet, left the family 3 years earlier, and Bird knows basically not to ask about her. Libraries are removing unpatriotic books, including Bird's mother's poetry. Then Bird receives a mysterious letter with a drawing that compels him to find his mother. And Bird uses the folk tales that his mother shared with him, along with an underground kind of system or network of libraries for his quest. So I think, or at least I hope, that I will like the use of libraries and literature in this, as I think it definitely has potential to be a really great story. On October 18th is my second most anticipated of the most anticipated books, and that is The Last Chairlift by John Irving. A Prayer for Owen Meany is one of my all-time favorite books. I've also read Until I Find You, I think it is, and Irving is an author that I want to read all of his work. The Last Chairlift, which is his first novel in 7 years, begins in 1941 in Colorado. Rachel Brewster, known as Little Ray, is a skier, and after she gets pregnant, she goes home to New England to raise her son Adam. When Adam grows up, he tries to find out more information about his father, and he goes back to Aspen looking for some answers. So this has elements of a ghost story, and I'm hoping that it will have what I love about Irving's novels, and that is great characters, great story. It's 900 plus pages, so I'm thinking that I will kind of set aside some time to just live in this book when I can get my hands on it. Also on October 18th is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. I read the Poisonwood Bible by Kingsolver many years ago now, and I have always said that I would read more of her work. So I have yet to do that, but I do have several of her books on my shelf, and this is just another, one to add to that list. So like Irving's book, Demon Copperhead is also about a boy born to a single mother. And this one takes place in the Appalachian Mountains. I love that the blurb says, "The plot never pauses for breath." So I hope that that's true. This novel is inspired by Charles Dickens' novel David Copperfield, which I have never read, but they both have similar themes of damaged children, poverty, and survival. So this is one that I'm adding to my Kingsolver hopefuls list. On October 25th is a newer author to me. I just read The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. Earlier this month I read it, and I have The Mother-in-Law waiting for next month. And then on October 25th, The Soulmate is coming out. And my hope is that this will live up to the claim of being suspenseful and twisty. So listen to this premise. This is about a couple named Gabe and Pippa. They buy their dream house, which is a cottage on the side of a cliff outside Melbourne. So it sounds lovely, right? And it would be, except there is the spot near the house, which is a place in the cliffs that is popular for people wishing to end their lives. Gabe kind of becomes this local hero as he saves person after person, until one night he doesn't save the person. And the woman's death is ruled as a suicide, but then Pippa finds out that Gabe actually knew the person. And she starts to realize that there is more to the story, and she wonders if the woman really jumped or if she was pushed. And I think that this will be good when I am looking for a really good thriller. Moving into November, I have 3 books on November the 1st that I'm really interested in. First is We Are the Light by Matthew Quick. I have read Silver Linings Playbook, and I believe I think I have another one on my shelf by Matthew Quick. We Are the Light is about Lucas Goodgame, who lives in Pennsylvania, and after a recent tragedy, Lucas is considered a hero. Lucas doesn't see himself as a hero, and he is grieving the death of his wife, who he believes visits him every night. Then this 18-year-old kind of shows up. He's been alienated from the community, and he begins camping out in Lucas's backyard. And the two of them join forces, sort of in a way to heal the community. So in some ways, this sounds a little out there for me, but I do like books with themes of loss and community, and it says that it also celebrates the healing power of art, and I do love that. So I hope to also love this book. Next on my list might not be a most anticipated book for me, but it's one that's on my radar, and it's part of a series that I've been reading. This is A Very Merry Bromance by Lyssa Kay Adams. I have read the first 3 books in the series, the Bromance Book Club series, and I loved the first one. I really liked the second one, and I liked the third one. So you can see where I'm going here, as usual, at least with series for me. I am slowly losing interest, and I have the 4th book on my shelf, so we will see if I get to it. If I do, then I may consider reading A Very Merry Bromance around Christmas time. We'll see. There's a lot that I like about this series. I like the idea of flipping the stereotype and having men reading romance novels to help their love lives along. And I have laughed out loud with the novels, and I like that each book focuses on a different character and relationship. So this one is about Colton, the country singer, if you follow along on the series. So I put this on for romance fans and fans of the series. So we'll see. For me, it will depend a lot on the 4th book and whether or not I will continue with the series, or how many more books there will be in the series. So if this is the last one, then I would most likely read it just to finish the series off. But if there are like 5 more, then I may not. So the final book coming out on November 1st by an author that I've read came as a real surprise for me, and I am really intrigued. It's called 14 Days, and it's edited by Margaret Atwood. So here are the things I love about this book. First, it takes place in New York, and you all know that I love New York and I love books set in New York. In this case, it is set in a Lower East Side tenement during the early days of lockdown, when COVID-19 first started. And the people of the tenement begin gathering on the rooftop of the building, sharing their stories. And many of them, like, not even speaking prior to the pandemic. And in 14 days, they have become real neighbors and they have a stronger community. So the twist with this novel is that each character or New York neighbor has been secretly written by a different major literary voice, like Margaret Atwood and other authors that I am familiar with, and I'm sure that you would be too. So Celeste Ng, Emma Donoghue, John Grisham, Diana Gabaldon, Meg Wolitzer, Louise Erdrich, Neil Gaiman, Candace Bushnell, Nora Roberts, Tommy Orange, and so many more. So this kind of feels to me like the literary version of We Are the World or something like that. And I am very excited to see how this all comes together. Okay, the next books on my list are by authors that I have on my shelf or on my TBR, but have never read yet, but I want to. And now I also want to read these books by them too. So on September the 6th is The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. I have Hamnet on my TBR, and I will get to that hopefully soon. Now, I'm adding The Marriage Portrait, which is already getting really good reviews, so that's a good sign. This is a historical fiction novel set in Florence in the 1550s, and it follows Lucrezia, whose older sister dies on the eve of her wedding. And Lucrezia becomes the replacement wife or bride to Alfonso, the ruler of Ferrara. And now she faces a future that she was not expecting at all. So this has a bit of a girl with a pearl earring or the other bowling girl kind of vibe to me. So if that's the case, I think that I will really like it. The next book on my list comes out September 20th, Less is Lost by Andrew Sean Greer. This is a sequel to Less, which is a Pulitzer Prize winning book, and one that has been on my TBR for a very long time. These are supposed to have some humor in them, so I hope that's true, and I will read them in order, but I know that this one has Arthur Less, who is a writer, going on a road trip across the US for some literary gigs that he has, and I do love a good road trip. I'm thinking that along his adventures, Arthur will find some chaos and humorous situations. So this sounds like it will be a fun read. Coming out on September 27th, I have 4 books. First is Shrines of Gaiety by Kate Atkinson. I've never read her work, and I have about 3 or 4 of her books on my shelf. Please tell me I'm not the only one who does that. Shrines of Gaiety takes place in 1926 in London, and it follows Nellie Coker, who is queen of the Soho club scene. And Nellie also wants success for her 6 children. And although she is ambitious and she is building her empire, she also has to confront her enemies and hope that she doesn't spiral into the darkness. Since I've never read a Kate Atkinson book, it's hard to kind of compare, but I feel like this is a bit different than her usual works. I could be wrong. Let me know if you've read Kate Atkinson. What do you think? Are these the same? Are they not? Especially if you are a fan, do you think that this is worth picking up? I'm hoping so. The next book is Laughing with the Trickster by Tomson Highway. Tomson Highway is a real Canadian treasure, and I've talked about him on my channel before, actually not too long ago, because I want to read his memoir, Permanent Astonishment. I think it's Growing Up Cree in the Land of Snow and Sky, which came out in the fall. And after I've read that, I think I will pick up Laughing with the Trickster. The subtitle for Laughing with the Trickster is On Sex, Death, and Accordions. So this book explores 5 themes: language, creation, sex and gender, humor, and death. It is an analysis of how Christian, classical, and Cree mythologies have contributed to Western thought, to life and to culture, and how Indigenous mythologies have proved unique and timeless solutions to our modern problems. So this book has my name written all over it, and I really can't wait to read Tomson Highway's work. I want to read all of it. Next up is a memoir, Is There Bacon in Heaven by Ali Hassan. Ali Hassan is a comedian, actor, and the host of CBC's Canada Reads. So I've talked about him on my channel many times, and along with my friends at Canada Reads American Style, we have interviewed Ali a few times now during the Canada Reads debates. So I've talked a lot with Ali Hassan about other people's books, but now this is kind of his book, and we'll get to chat with him about that. So I believe that this is supposed to come out last year, but it was postponed. And in this memoir, Ali talks about his eclectic and diverse upbringing as a Pakistani Muslim, and he shares what it is like to kind of walk that line of embracing his heritage while following his passions and being true to himself. So he brings humor to his experiences that have just found him in compromising situations and that have challenged his beliefs and identity. So I'm really looking forward to reading this, and hopefully I'll be able to do that before the next Canada Reads debate in March. This next book, I think, is being published September 27th. I have also seen October 4th as a date, so I'm actually not sure which one is true, but regardless, this book came to my attention because it was submitted for the Giller Prize, and I did not put it on my long list hopefuls, but it's one that I am really interested in. It's called The Sleeping Car Porter by Suzette Mayr. This gives us a glimpse into Black history in North America that is not usually talked about. Baxter is a queer Black man who works as a sleeping car porter in 1929. And as the train is traveling across Canada, it becomes stranded for 2 days due to a mudslide. And the secrets of the white passengers begin to kind of leak out, and Baxter has a few secrets himself. So for me, I am already interested in Baxter's character, and I want to learn more about him and about his story. Plus, I like the setting and the different themes that this book brings together. So we'll see how that one goes. Skipping ahead to November 10th, I have a new to me author, Cyclets by Tree Abraham. The cover of this keeps grabbing my attention, and then when I read the blurb, I thought it might be an interesting read. This is a book told in vignettes about Tree Abraham's various bicycles throughout her life and various bicycle-like experiences and observations. So that might seem strange, but I have fond memories myself of learning how to ride a bike, and I remember my first bike and my second bike and third bike, and I just think that there might be something to this. So we will see. And the final book on my list is a debut author. The Frederick Sisters Are Living the Dream. This is by Jeannie Zusy. What caught my attention about this debut is that it was compared to Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, which is an all-time favorite book of mine, and it was also compared to Where'd You Go, Bernadette, another book that I really, really enjoyed. So I thought that this was pretty high praise if it's being compared to those, and I thought it was worth looking into. So this novel is about sisters, Maggie, Jeannie, and Betsy, and when Jeannie, who is a diabetic with intellectual disabilities, overdoses on Jell-O, strawberry Jell-O, Maggie decides that she needs to move closer so that Maggie can be her caregiver. Now, Betsy doesn't actually approve of this little setup, but she's miles away. So this begins Maggie's adventures of being a caregiver, not only to her sister, but also to her own family. So I see potential for this book to have some humor, but to also have some, I would say, very heartfelt moments and some good themes. So I hope that that's true. So these are some of my most anticipated books that are being published before the end of 2022. Please let me know if you are interested in any of these, if you have read any of these authors. Is there one that you think I should prioritize more than the others? Are there any books coming out that you are excited about that you would add to this list? I would love to hear all about that and hear about your most anticipated books too. So I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.